Hey everyone, and welcome to another virtual crochet meeting brought to you right in your living room from us here at the library. Today, we are learning the technique of Tunisian crochet. I showed you guys a sneak peek of this scarf that I made, I don't know, a couple years ago, maybe now. And there are a lot of different stitches you can do with this hook and this in this style. But today we're going to focus on what's called the simple stitch. You can see here, this is what the front looks like. This is what the part that faces you will look like, because you'll be working this project one way. So it will be one-sided. So I'll show you what the inside looks like. The back of your work will look like this. It looks to me knitted. Something that I notice when I'm working this stitch is that it curls a lot for me at the bottom of my work, and that's just how it goes. So if you notice that, it's not a problem. You're probably still doing it right. So anyway, that's a close-up of this particular stitch. I did use two different kinds of yarn. What I really like about this particular stitch is that it treats variegated yarn in a really cool way. That's why all of the skeins that we provided for you guys for this project are variegated. Because I notice sometimes in traditional like single crochet or double crochet that the colors in a variegated yarn will pool. And sometimes that's not always the most attractive looking fabric when you're done. However, with the Tunisian crochet stitch and like the moth stitch, if you're just crocheting with a regular hook, I feel like treat the variegated yarn really cool, and they kind of blend those colors so they don't end up as chunks of colors. It's kind of all dispersed and really fun looking. That's what I got with this particular skein of yarn that I used. This is, I think it's called Birdsong or something. I don't know who comes up with these names. I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, I mixed it in with a row of just gold, and I did do a slip stitch along the edge of my scarf in gold to kind of finish it off. So that'll be up to you if you want to pick a complementary color out of your variegated skein to do a little edging on. Up to you. Anyway, so that's what mine looks like. I just think the colors blend so nicely, and it's really fun to work with. I just think it's a fun stitch to do. It's like an enjoyable, monotonous motion. I don't know. That's what all knitting and crocheting is, right? We like the feel of it. Today, I am working with Lion Brand's Ferris wheel yarn because I like it. I have had this yarn in my stash for a really long time because that's how we roll. We stockpile our hobby materials, and I got a lot of yarn. So I thought this would be great to use for this project. The yarn I'm using is different than the yarn you have in your packets, but I thought it would be weird if the library bought me just more yarn to add to my yarn wall. So I'm using what I have from home. It will work up the same way as the skeins that we included in your packet, so it shouldn't matter. But nobody got this color. But if you want it, Ferris wheel, in the color Sprinkles to crafting. Okay, so what you're gonna need for this project is a really long Tunisian crochet hook. I don't even know if the whole thing's gonna fit in this shot here. Mine, today I am working with a 6mm hook, and you guys have whatever one you chose from our bag here. You're gonna need a basic understanding of some crochet techniques like single crochet, chains, but beyond that, what we're looking at is a bit different. We're gonna go in the stitches a little differently, and like I said, we're not gonna be turning our work. We're all gonna work in one direction back and forth. So that's kind of different. Anyway, I'm using a 6mm hook, which is larger than I think the recommended for this yarn, because my stitches always end up really tight. So I tend to up my hook size right from the get-go because I know my tension, my personal tendencies towards being a tight knitter. So I just go a little bigger to start off with. So grab your hook and your ball of yarn. I've already got a little yarn vomit going because I like the center pull of my yarn, and so you have to find that, and it doesn't always come out nicely. Sometimes you get a little yarn vomit, and then you just kind of got to work through that till it becomes a nice center pull, but it shouldn't take too long. First things first, we start this off just like we start anything off really. We are going to slip stitch. I've got my tail. Personally, I just wrap the working yarn, the bit that's attached to my yarn ball, around 2 fingers, let it cross in the front, and then if you turn your fingers over, you've got the loop around your fingers, and then I can push that bit that I just brought around underneath, pull on that, grab those two working yarn and the tail, pull it together, and you have your loop. And this is a resizable loop, so I can stick my needle in there and cinch it right up. You can see a more detailed explanation of how to do a slip stitch in the scrubby video that we filmed last month, and that one is still available on YouTube. We are out of yarn, but if you wanted to pick up some of your own yarn, or if you have some around the house that you're looking for a small project to use with, the scrubby video from October is for you. All right, now everything's looking pretty similar. We've done our slip stitch. We've got this, other than the really long hook, everything's really the same. What we're gonna do now is chain, and we're gonna chain the way we've always chained. And you're gonna chain as long as you want your scarf to be wide. So I don't know how many stitches. Hang on, I'll count the stitches. Okay, so I think this one's like 30 stitches wide, and you can see like my hand on it for gauge for scale. Hands on it for scale. See how big that is? My stitch tension is going to be different than yours. Your hook size might also be different than mine. So just chain until you think you have a thing as wide as you would like a scarf. Yours also doesn't, mine's an infinity scarf because I like that, but yours doesn't have to be an infinity scarf. You just don't cinch up the end. I like this because it allowed me, you don't have to make the infinity scarf quite as long as you would have to make a regular scarf. So that's why I did that, but optional. All right, so I shall chain. To do so, I shall yarn over and come through the loop on my hook. Chaining, I can't look at the monitor while I do this. Chaining just like we always would. And you can hear my hook probably hitting the table. And that is because at this point, it's a little bit cumbersome. Also, I don't usually crochet on a table. I usually crochet on the couch in my house while I watch Bonanza. That's a true story. Okay. I have 30 stitches here, and I've decided that this is the length that I'm going to make, or the width that I'm going to make my project. So depending on what you've decided for your project, you might need more or less. Also depending on your hook size and your gauge with your yarn. All right, here is where we start doing Tunisian things. So we're going to skip two, this one and this one, and we're going to go into this third one, just like we would normally. And here I'm going to yarn over and pull through that first loop. So we have two loops on our hook now, but that's where it stops. And I'm going to move on to the next stitch, and I'm going to continue picking up stitches till I get to the end of my row. So I find my next chain, and I go in there, yarn over, bring back just through that one loop. Now I've got 3, and then I'm going to insert into the next chain, drag a loop through, and now we've got 4. Keep going like this until you've gone into every chain and picked up a loop for each stitch minus the 2 you skipped at the beginning. You can already see I'm pulling on my stitches because they're very tight on my hook, and that's my fault because, like I said, I'm a tight crocheter. So try to be a little looser. You don't want it so loose that there are big holes in your work, but make sure that you give your loops some breathing room. My yarn is a little bit fuzzy. I know that I've worked with the yarn that we handed out to you guys, and it's not nearly as fuzzy, so it shouldn't create as much friction and as much catching as I seem to be having here. All right, here I am at my last stitch. So we're just gonna go in there, grab one, pull through. All right, so now I have a whole bunch of stitches on my hook. Just like that. Now we look like we're knitters because we have this one long hook and we have a bunch of stitches built up on it. That's how they roll. Here we are with our first row of pickups done. And they're all ready to go for our back track. Now we're not turning our work. Don't turn it over, keep it right here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna yarn over and we're gonna come through just one loop on our hook there. We got a lot waiting, but we're just gonna go through one. And now for the remainder of the stitches on our hooks, we're gonna yarn over and drag through 2 at a time, all the way till we get to the end. Let's do that. So we yarn over and we're gonna pull through 2. I'm gonna scooch some of my stitches up here so they're ready to go. Yours hopefully will slide a little more easily because you didn't crochet them as tightly as mine. Yarn over through 2 more. Yarn over through 2 again. Yarn over through 2. And on down the line until we get to the very end. I will see you there. Alright, I'm at the last 2 loops on my hook, so I'm going to yarn over and come through both of those. Alright, you've completed your first row of back and forth here. Should have a nice row of posts. Can you see the vertical parts of these stitches right here? Those vertical bars? That's what we're going to need to identify as we go back here on our next row. And this is going to start the repeating pattern that you'll proceed with for the remainder of your project. So here's the front of my work, and the back looks like this. Got some upside down V's going there. Here's the front again. All right, so we're not turning our work. We've come along this way and back this way, and that's where we are right now. And we're just gonna start picking up stitches all down towards the left again. So this time our stitches aren't chains, they are these bars right here. So we are gonna go underneath. We're gonna skip this bit hanging off the side over here. Our first loop on our hook over here counts as this bit. And we're gonna go underneath that bar. And we're gonna yarn over, grab some yarn, pull through just that bar of that stitch. And we're gonna leave that loop on the hook and move on to our next bar underneath there. Grab that yarn, pull it through. Now I've got 3. Moving on to the next bar. We're gonna go underneath, yarn over, pull through. And we have 4. Do this on down the line, just like we did before, making sure you can slide your hook easily. And I'll see you at the end. If you find that your stitches are bunching up on you, on your hook, you can just slide them on down and make yourself some more room. Here I am at the end. I have picked up all my stitches and I have 1 bar left here, but as we can see, it is attached to the first chain, or well, yeah, the first chain we made on our way back. So instead of going just under this loop here, we are going to grab both of those loops, go underneath, yarn over, pull through those 2 for our last stitch. Now we've set ourselves up to go back again. We're not turning our work. We're going to keep it facing this way. You can see we have our first row building underneath there. And we're going to yarn over. First stitch on the way back gets 1 loop, and all the rest get 2. Yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, and till you get to the end of your project. Here I was, my last 2 stitches of the row. So I yarn over and I just come on through those 2 stitches. And here I am at the end. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. You just go back now and you pick up all those bars and remember to go through the whole stitch at the end, those 2 little chain bits there at the end. And then on your first stitch on the way back, go through 1, and then the rest of those stitches go through 2. and keep going back and forth until you have a scarf. It's really as simple as that. So I'm gonna show one more row real quick, and then I'll show you how to end it. You're gonna keep doing this back and forth. This is also a good moment to take stock of how big your project is. It's not gonna get any wider than this, and you've worked a few rows, so your chain might have changed size. So if you like where you're at, keep going, and if you don't, you can frog it, pull it back, and make some adjustments to your starting chain. But let's do one more row, and then I'll show you the technique for finishing it off. So first things first, skip this guy right here, and I'm gonna go underneath this first bar, yarn over, pull up, leave that on my hook, move to the next bar, yarn over, pull up, and so on and so forth. See you at the end. Once again, don't do what I'm doing and make your stitches so tight. It is very hard to crochet and film at the same time. All right, so one more time. Here we are at the end, and instead of going through just this bar here, I'm gonna go ahead and continue through to get that second bar. For my final stitch, pull through, and on my way back, I'm not turning, just yarning over, coming through one loop, and for the remainder, coming through 2 loops. Yarn over through 2 until there are no more loops to go through. All right, last stitch. I got 2 loops there, yarn over through both. All right, so we're gonna pretend like I'm done, like I've made a whole scarf and I'm ready to end it. What you're gonna do first is not go through the first bar like usual. We're gonna go under this second bar. We're gonna yarn over and come through not only the bar, but we're gonna go ahead and go through the loop on our hook too, like a slip stitch. And move to the next bar. Underneath that bar, yarn over through the bar and the loop. One more time. Go through the bar, yarn over through the bar, and the loop. And this is creating like a little finishing edge here. And you're just gonna do that until you're all the way done with your project. So here I am at my last bar, which would be here. But once again, we're gonna turn it to the side to make sure I go through both of those loops. I'm gonna come through that stitch and the one on my hook. I'm done. I can clip my yarn and pull it through this loop and cinch it up tight, and I will have a finished project. See how curly it is? That's just how it is. But anyway, you can see it's starting to look like the one I made before. You can see how those stitches are. Lots of lines and bars. I think that looks really cool. And the back looks like this, kind of bumpy. And it makes a nice like squishy, stretchy fabric that I think is fun. And yeah. So keep on crocheting, keep going back and forth and back and forth. Please give me a call, come in, send me an email or a Facebook message if you have any questions. Feel free to send pictures of what you're working on too. I'd love to see that. Oh, and I was gonna say, you're only limited by your crochet hook. If I haven't already said this, I don't remember. It's been, 30 minutes down here in the basement. So you might be able to, you can use this technique with your regular crochet hooks at home that are shorter. You're just limited to being able to make the piece as wide as your hook. That's why these are so long, so you can make longer projects. You can do Tunisian crochet with your short crochet hooks and make smaller, skinnier strips that you could stitch together when you're all the way done and just have a couple long strips together to make the piece as wide as you need it to be. So you're only limited by the size of your hook. That's why we gave you these. And they have this thing on the end so that your stitches don't slide off of it while you're working them. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in for another virtual crochet. And I hope you come back next month because we're planning more fun things. And please, like I said, send us your pictures of what you're working on. Come in, chat, say hi. We're happy to see you. Bye, everyone.